Okay, I've got the pleasure of having Tanja Rebel with me, who is Tanja spelt with a J in case you want to search her or whatever. But yeah, she's going to talk about 5G International is your thing, isn't it?
That's one of them.
And global protest, 5G global protest. And that's, you know, you can find these sites on, are we on YouTube there or Facebook?
It's Facebook, but also Safe Tech International, which is a website I'm a member of.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah,
Facebook free.
People will be able to find you on Facebook, but it's Tanja with a J though, not with a Y. Yeah. When I first met Tanja years back, I was looking for her and I was looking for the Y, and I got all these Tanjas from all over the world. But it wasn't you, I think it was.
It's the usual one.
Anyways.
J is Dutch spelling.
Yeah, so you're going to talk about obviously 5G, which is the main thing, but the analogue landlines as well, aren't you?
Yep. Very important.
Copper wired landlines, which I use for my internet. I'm directly on the Ethernet. I don't use Wi-Fi or nothing. But without that copper wired landline, I'm buggered, basically.
It's essential, and that's really now our main focus is the copper analog landline, because they are phasing it out, as you know. They've already phased it out in various places.
People already been put digital, but people are unaware of what they're doing, you know, that's the problem.
That's the thing, most people are unaware of what's happening, because they're being told, oh, but you can have a landline, a so-called digital VoIP landline, which stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP for short. But that isn't half as good as a copper analog landline, because for starters, it doesn't work when there's a power cut. So if there's a power cut, you're literally up the...
Or if you turn your router off, your Wi-Fi router, it doesn't work then.
That's the other.
Through it, isn't it, you know?
Yeah, if you want to be connectable all night long, which many people do, and not as in with your mobile phone, because that's not good for us, as we know by now, especially not at night next to your bed. So if you want to be contactable, the copper analog landline is essential. It's essential in emergencies. I know people in the States and various places, they say the copper analog landline was the last thing to work during an earthquake. Fires, we have wildfires all over the world, apparently increasing for whatever reason. People have different opinions on that. But regardless, we need the copper analog landline as an essential part, critical part of national and international infrastructure. Because once the power goes, and we know that we've already been warned that there's going to be more blackouts, etc. The power goes, we're in the dark, we know that already. We're being asked to be prepared for that. But how will we communicate? I mean, look at Spain and Portugal, that was just recently. People had that massive power cut. We don't know if it was a cyber attack or whatever it was, but the cyber attack's obviously already happening and in the coming. And they were...
Also false flag cyber attacks can be happening.
Well, yes, but regardless, the consequences for us are the same.
Cyber attack,
And so people were standing with their phones in the air, waving, no Wi-Fi, what do we do? They couldn't communicate because there was no copper analog LAN. If there was a phone box, and that's the other thing, we've recently had a brilliant campaign, and we've started a new group called Save Our Copper Landlines and Save Our Phone Boxes. I put it here, I have it here in front of me. Save Our Phone Boxes, I still have to learn it by heart. And Copper Landlines, it's a public Facebook group. You don't need to become a member of Facebook, because I know the troubles. Yes, it's quite small written, and there should be an extra zero.
If you angle it straight like that.
Yeah.
No, a bit further. No, that way.
That way?
That's it. I think that should be...
yeah, it's at the bottom there.
I think that's in focus. People will be able to...
Yeah,
I can't see on the screen so small.
No, of course, it is possible. Save Our Phone Boxes and Copper Landlines public Facebook group. And we've recently had a campaign because people love their phone boxes in this country for various reasons. They're beautiful, they use them as whatever. But the most important thing, folks, is that we got a functioning copper analog landline. And if you understand how important that is, there's a petition called Save Our Copper Analog Landlines.
Yes.
And there is the link, it's an I-petition, but you can look it up. You can just put it in the subject search bar. Save Our Copper Analog Landlines, and it explains why they're important, and you can sign it and share it, please. It has about almost 3,000 signatures now, so there are many aware people, not in the least the electrosensitive, hypersensitive, we're all electrosensitive, but they are the canaries in the coal mine. They're already being made ill by all the wireless, and for them it's a lifeline. As it is for us all, as we know now, for security. So that's essential. And the phone boxes, which everybody, well, most people somewhat think it's quaint and lovely to keep them, we need to keep them for emergencies. And BT says you need to use it 52 times a year, I think, minimum, for it to be kept. Well, we should start using them more. But also, there's no reason not to keep them for emergency as such, whether people use them for leisure or for whatever reason or not. It's just so important.
Well, for me, it's for the internet as well, you know.
Exactly.
Because the fact, you see, where these people, by the way, we have got a phone box here, not far from me, as a walk up in the town.
Goody, I'll go and have a look at it.
I'll put one of your posts in.
Stickers
I'll use it occasionally when I walk past, so they can see it's getting some use, at least, and hopefully. But this digital thing, you know, like for instance, I was dog sitting for some friends of mine in Venter a couple of months ago, and they've got digital in now, and it goes through their Wi-Fi router. I mean, I had a place for myself, so I was turning that router off because it was chucking a lot of EMFs out, you know. And so I thought, well, I don't need it, they're not here. Turn it off, but I turned the digital phone off as well, doing it, you know. A lot of people, they're linked with all this smart stuff, like the smart TVs, everything.
Which isn't smart at all.
And if they turn the Wi-Fi router off, they've lost everything, you know. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not safe.
Chained to it, you know.
They are. People are more or less addicted to Wi-Fi. Everybody already needs Wi-Fi. I recently went on holiday and looked for Wi-Fi free places. It's harder and harder to get. And even if you find one, then
this house is one.
Well, this house is one. But the thing is, it goes through walls from other neighbours. It's still less bad because obviously distance is your friend, but you're still affected by everybody else because they are radiating not just themselves but others. So that's a big issue. But yes, you're so right. I'm going to go and use that.
Smart meters of any sort as well: water, gas, electric, smart meters. Like I'm getting it from next door. They've got a water one out the back here, and I can get it a bit when I'm upstairs. I can sense it, you know. It's
you can.
Like EMF, you know, field strength meter.
Yeah, everybody should have an EMF detector. It's a sad world we live in, but now that the radiation is so proliferate and everywhere and increasing in not just quantity, but also, I wouldn't say quality, but that they're going higher frequencies. We need an electrosmog meter to make sure we're safe, particularly where we sleep, because that's where your body regenerates itself. And as the cells communicate electrochemically, and the cell's mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, which creates energy in the body, that is particularly affected by radiation, which causes oxidative stress. This is not yet accepted by the mainstream, but it's definitely there. There are tens of thousands of peer-reviewed studies showing harm.
It's just a propaganda machine for the government and the corporates.
There we are. But there's one man particularly, and I'm going to show this now, there's one man particularly who's been ringing the alarm bell. He's called Arthur Fenberg, an American gentleman, and he recently died. He was
I've got the book actually, but I'm not a prolific reader, but it hurts my eyes. You know?
He's got a good book. He's got several books. The one that he's particularly known for is the Invisible Rainbow, which I recommend everybody reads. About the history
of a chapter on the Isle of Wight in it as well, hasn't it? Which is
about the history of electricity, how it affects us, how it's affected us ever since the beginning of electricity, if you like. And I'm not saying, he's not saying either go back to the Stone Age, but he's talking about how to use it safely, and above all the dangers of wireless, which affected him badly.
I mean, back, he put on there, I can't remember exactly, but he was talking about Queen Victoria's time, when they had the radar going in over, I can't remember exactly where it was, I think it was on the Needles, but it killed all the bees.
He wrote about that already, during Marconi's time, when Marconi visited the island.
That's back in the early 20th century, isn't it? Turn of the century, isn't it? 19th, 20th century.
It's quite a while ago.
Yeah, it is a long time ago now. we never even had wireless phones then, you know.
No, and it
radar
started
and stuff,
there,
yeah.
but radar of course affected, and that is wireless.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're now using radar, by the way, inside cars, and outside cars it's madness what's
Yeah,
happening
yes.
there. But I'll
Yes.
get on to cars in a moment. But yes, so he was so sensitive that he literally became iller and iller. He died recently. It's a huge loss. Before he died, he finished, or he updated one of his book called The Earth and I, which I also recommend is an interesting read. I just got it myself. And it's about the whole situation on the Earth, how the planet is being maltreated by our species, really. But it also includes sections and a lot of advice on how we should stop using wireless radiation, go wired, because wired connections are safer. They have to be well shielded, of course, point-to-point well shielded. But wired connections ensure that the radiation goes to the wire and not you.
That's right.
If you want to keep it simple. Because we're making things so much more complex by microwaving ourselves, and, as you said, the bees, the birds, they are huge victims of this. And he started a group called, it's called Global Radiation Emergency. Radiationemergency.org is the website.
Yes.
Radiationemergency.org. And this is a poster from this, and it's about wireless technology and how we need to save not just ourselves from this onslaught, because that's what it is, but also the animals and the plants, wildlife, huge suffering from that.
Yeah.
And then we haven't even talked about the surveillance aspect of all of this, because what's happening now with 5G cells in every other lamppost and with everything becoming wireless, our phone being the biggest surveillance tool of all. If you have a mobile phone, I would recommend ditch it immediately, go fully wired, because the mobile phone is literally your spyglass. It's I call it the smart, so-called inverted commas, mirror. It's a dumbing down, of course, because it's things more and more for us.
Yeah.
And it's also something that people, for example, GPS, people don't even read maps anymore. They don't use their own brain to go anywhere. GPS is telling them, Alexa is telling them, AI, this is all about
AI.
AI.
About this GPS Google Maps thing, you know. I go to London a lot, and I've stopped doing it now, but from a couple of years back. But I'd often get a bit lost, you know. I use a paper A to Z normally, but sometimes I haven't got it in my bag or something. And I'd ask someone, I'd say, oh, do you know where so-and-so is? You know, and they get the phone out, hang on a minute, and they're turning around and saying, oh yeah, oh, it's up there, and they send me off in the wrong direction.
Oh, well, that happens as well, of course. Alexa and AI don't know it all.
Even some of the locals don't know where things are. It's amazing, really.
It's tragicomic, really, but the thing is, they found out, there's a recent study, well, not that recent, but I recently read about taxi drivers in London, no doubt, taxi drivers anywhere, have a very good brain capacity, obviously spatial awareness, because they have to learn all the roads, in the old days anyway, and they have less risk apparently of dementia, because their brain is so much more being used.
Not anymore, they don't.
Well, now they're being radiated, because the cars and everything have
a taxi,
all these things
I
in it.
won't do it again because it was a fortune on this island. But I wanted to get back, I think I just got off a ferry or something. And the taxi driver, had 3 mobile phones in his car.
In a Faraday cage.
I'm thinking, God's truth, you know, he's sitting in a microwave oven here, you know. I don't know how long he's on duty. But to see him on public transport, the bus drivers, they have the contactless cards and everything. And
poor drivers, they have to use all this stuff.
the more phones you get on the bus, usually when youngsters come on, usually it is. But a lot of oldsters as well are using the phones to pay.
And all
that.
we're more are being forced onto wireless payments.
But the radiation levels on the bus, the more phones, the higher it is. I've had my meat out of them, gold. But I only got my free bus pass a couple of years back, and I think, look at that, I've got this free bus pass. Where it's a microwave oven on wheels I have to get onto, you know what I mean? So I avoid them as much as I can.
Get a free bus pass and be irradiated for free.
That's right.
Well, it's becoming more and more, Wi-Fi.
Serious, on the street, lad, and all. You know, you just be walking down the street and the dangerously high. electromagnetic fields, the EMFs.
Oh, you mean because of those people walking on smart zombies?
It's just from the cell towers.
Well, those as well, yeah. It's all
Wi-Fi in the shops, it gets out onto the street.
But this is where we get to the crux. If people didn't use these phones, if people ditched their phone and went wired from tomorrow, if they got a copper analog landline, and if they insisted on keeping their landline,
that won't happen.
there's things that, well,
a lot of people are, but a lot of people are too dependent on
we need
it.
a critical mass.
They use everything on the phone, everything.
I know that
emails.
because that's what they're doing. But the thing is, it's in our hands now. It's literally in our hands. If we don't ditch this phone, because the phone is the reason why these masks are there, or the phone and our wireless gadgets.
There's also another way, which
if the phones weren't there, the masks wouldn't have to be there.
If people turn the phones off when they're not using them,
that's a help.
Well, me, mine's in flight mode most of the time, unless I'm expecting someone to text me or something, you know.
It's mitigation.
Then it's not receiving. I mean, in flight mode, you can still get in stuff you've already uploaded on your phone, whether it be on Facebook or whatever, or your memos and your camera and everything. You still use it while you're in flight mode, but it's not receiving or transmitting. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I know there's a bit of a grey area.
It's far more complex than that.
Yeah.
For starters, if you have it on flight mode, if you don't put your settings, the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, if you don't disable them, you'll still get a pulse every 40 seconds. Yes, but people don't realize this. And secondly, even if your phone is totally off, unless you take out the battery, there's still, Arthur Furstenberg was adamant about that, still radiation coming from it, and at times they can still locate you. So I wonder how they do that, huh?
Yeah,
even if the phone is off.
So you don't know what back doors they're putting in.
I understand that we live in this world. I understand that some people, sadly for work nowadays more and more, there's no job anymore almost that don't have to use these things. I understand that some people have to use these things, sadly. This is the world we live in. I'm not stupid, I don't say, oh, we just ditch it all. But the people who can, who don't need them, it's a moral responsibility now to ditch this phone, because A, you're not only irradiating yourself, even if it's mainly on flight mode, but you're radiating your surroundings, people who are already being made ill by this, who can't even go out anymore, can't use public transport, anything anymore because of us using these things. And secondly, or above all in my view, in a way, we are irradiating the world, we are killing the bees, who are particularly sensitive to higher frequencies, so 5G is a bee killer, and 6, 7, whatever they now want to invent,
all
or onto already.
Butterflies, bees, there's a lot of
pollinators. All insects, yeah, the smaller ones.
In there or something, you know. I look in my garden, which is pretty zero here because of where I am, and I don't have
a lovely
Wi-Fi.
garden.
And I get loads of different, I didn't realise how many pollinators there were. They're all sizes, you know, coming on all my flowers.
Amazing.
It's partly wild, my garden, which I like to do.
Yes.
And the bees love it, you know. It's a little oasis for bird life and bees.
It is. Wild gardens are the future. And the bees, of course, that's why I mentioned the bees particularly, all of them, but the bees are pollinators. And even if we don't care about the bees as such, which I think we should do, because just have a look at a bumblebee, it's amazing. It's magical, really, how that can even fly. But they are essential for pollination. So if the bees go, we go. Unless we want to live in a world which they are creating now, with robot bees and GMO crops and all this.
That's right.
What kind of a world do we want? And what kind of a world are we creating? Because we are sleepwalking into an Orwellian, brave new world. And there are things we can do. And one thing is, get a copper analog landline, or demand to keep it, sign this petition, very important. Save our copper analog landlines.
Yes.
Spread the word. Make sure your phone box is preserved, or demand that it's put back. You can call BT. Every phone box has a number that you can call. Yeah. Join SafeTech International. Contact them. Make sure your house is totally wireless free as much as possible, especially your sleeping area. And for surveillance issues, don't walk around with this smart mirror, because it ain't your friend. We know that already. We know what it's doing to kids. We know what it's doing to wildlife. What is it doing to you? Are we going to be species that are becoming more and more addicted to all this and not thinking with our own brains and hearts? Or are we going to be human beings who take responsibility and create a world where we have face-to-face contact, not cashless? We cashless game, not places where we can't even go anymore because we need a phone. No, we need people, and that we can't even call services anymore. We need services that we can call and contactable. A world where people can live a life which is simple, which is rich with simple means.
Well, yeah, I think shopkeepers, a lot of them prefer cash, some of them will only accept cash anyway.
Good. We need local
You know,
coins again,
it's-
because
yeah.
this is about AI governments and AI takeover, and we don't want that. We want
Yeah.
to take back
Company,
control, and I don't mean Brexit. I mean take control for real,
Yeah.
and that means you making responsible, using your own hands, feet again, and your brain for navigation and all this other jazz, and above all, a humane world.
Yeah.